So number five is arguably my favorite baseball game of all time. It is Rangers versus Cardinals Game 6 of 2010. Um, so this is World Series. Rangers take the lead late in the game, or I think they kind of dominate the whole game, but definitely late in the game they have the lead. They are two outs, two strikes, and David Freese hits a shot into right field, ties up the game. And remember, this is Game 6, so if the Rangers win this game, they win their first World Series ever. Ties up the game, they go into extras, then the Rangers take another lead. And then I forget who hit the tying shot in the 10th, but then you go into the 11th, and who comes back up to bat again? Bottom of the 11th, David Freese hits a home run dead center to send the game to Game 7. It was electric. And then, of course, the Cardinals win Game 7, win another World Series, keep the Rangers from winning their first World Series. That is arguably the best baseball game I've ever watched. I watched it on TV, and probably the best baseball game I ever watched. Number 4 is super biased because I'm a Broncos fan, and I mentioned earlier how much I loved ruining Cam Newton's MVP season by whooping their tail in 2016 in Super Bowl. Getting to watch that game as a Broncos fan, getting to witness my first Broncos Super Bowl after they got their butts whooped by the Seahawks 2 years prior. Yeah, 2 years prior or a year prior. So number 4 is the Broncos winning the Super Bowl. Von Miller getting that Super Bowl MVP for having arguably one of the greatest games in Super Bowl history, definitely from a defensive perspective. Number 4, the Broncos getting to witness the Broncos Super Bowl first as a fan. So number 3, we talked about this earlier off camera. Man, what a year 2016 was. We talked about this recently. 2016, what a year. You got the Broncos beating Cam Newton. And then number 3, in 2016, you have Villanova versus North Carolina. National Championship Final Four 2016. Recently went back and rewatched this just to make sure it was the same game that I remembered. And holy cow, you want to know some wild stats? That game, neither team never had more than a 7-point lead. There was not a single point in that game where another team went up by more than it may have been 8. It's either 7 or 8. I know that, but I think it's 7 points. So that game was extremely tight from start to finish. There was never just like, all right, we got to claw back. It was they went up 7, they tied it up. But then North Carolina went up 7, and they tied it back up. Then Villanova went up 5, and then it was back and back and back, dude. And in the last few seconds, North Carolina down by 3 with 12 seconds left. They throw in the ball. I forget his name who made the shot. If anyone remembers his name for North Carolina. But he catches the ball. It does that little pump fake in the air because he's about to get fouled. Throws up to 3. Thinks it. Crowd goes wild because we're going to overtime. North Carolina has done it. They tied the game at 72. We are going to overtime. And then what happens? Chris Jenkins catches the ball, or they inbound the ball. They do a little pass back, so the point guard kind of gets close to 3-point line, passes it backwards a little bit to Chris Jenkins, catches it, shoots it, and sinks it at the buzzer to win the national championship. Okay? Personally, my favorite basketball game ever. And it's the greatest basketball game I've ever watched. Nothing has touched it. Number 2, okay, it's super biased, and you could hate me for it. But as a fan of this team, greatest moment I've ever witnessed, and also it was a great game, is TC versus Michigan last year, y'all. TC versus Michigan is such a good game. Outside of being a bias, it's one of the best playoff games we've ever seen since the playoff has happened. You can all agree upon that, right? But then remember, this is personal. So for me personally, getting to witness TCU win a playoff game in the college football playoff after getting left out in 2014, okay? An honorable mention was when we beat the brakes off Ole Miss in the Peach Bowl back in 2014 because we deserved to be in the playoff and we beat them by 40, okay? Shout out TCU in 2014. But last year, watching that game on the couch, we were actually at my in-law, as a fan, getting to witness your team that has never made the playoff, the Super Cinderella team, beat Michigan in the playoff. Electric, one of the greatest football games I've witnessed. Number 1, You've all been waiting for this moment because I have told you off air how magical this is. My wife is here with me, and she will agree with this. The number one sports moment I've ever witnessed personally. Let's go back 2 years. Let's go to 2021. It was a Friday night. There's been one team, the Ouachita Lions, who had been in a 27-year drought of being able to beat West Monroe High School in a football game. Okay? It has been 27 years. Okay? Fun fact, my wife was in her mom's belly the last time before this. So me and my wife had never witnessed West Monroe or lose to Ouachita. So it's the year Todd Garvin's first year. It wasn't really like a game people thought Ouachita would win. It just kind of felt like, oh, Ouachita's there, West Monroe. We'll probably beat them by a few touchdowns. And it's at Ouachita, man. And here's the thing: it's like outside of that, it's probably the greatest high school game I've just in general ever witnessed. But also the attachment of it's been 27 years. West Monroe goes up a touchdown. Ouachita scores a touchdown early in the game. Then I think West Monroe scores before half. So it's 14-6 going into halftime. Okay, I'm going to walk through this game because the ending sequences of this game is electric. And so then first play after halftime, West Monroe's running back, who's at Tulane now. I forget his name. Rashawn Pleasant? Is that his name? Pleasant, who's at Tulane now. First play after halftime takes like a handoff 80 yards. So it's 21-6 at this point. Okay, it is 21-6. This one, when it feels like West Monroe's going to just kind of take the reins and win. Well, a few drives later, West Monroe gets the ball. Federico, the quarterback, gets strip sacked. DN for Ouachita, Phil Bradford, who's actually at McNeese now, scoops it up, takes it to the 5. Ouachita eventually punches it in. So it's 21-13. And then late in the fourth, Ouachita gets the ball back, makes a drive downfield, scores, then converts the 2-point conversion. So it's 21-21. Okay? Overtime, baby. We go into overtime. And what happens? Ouachita scores the second or third play, misses the PAT. They miss the point after. So all West Monroe has to do is score and then get the 2-point conversion. West Monroe doesn't. They score or get the extra point. West Monroe scores. And then Ouachita freaking blocks the extra point. They block the extra point to make the game go to a second overtime. West Monroe scores, right? First or second play in the second overtime, they score. So it's 34 to math is mathing me right now. 34. Oh, stop talking to me. My wife's trying to improv over here. But it is 34-27. Okay. Because they both have missed the extra point. 34-27. Ouachita scores a touchdown. We're going to a third overtime, y'all. But we're not because Todd Garvin says we are going to either win or to lose it. So it's 34-33. And what happens? They fake the handoff left and toss it right instead. Cardell Sturman runs all the way to the edge of the end zone, puts it in, and Ouachita beats West Monroe for the first time in 27 years. And the place erupts. It erupts. We're storming the field. I mean, witnessing that in person, the atmosphere was electric. Winning it and seeing the crowd erupt and just rush in the field and going back and hearing it on radio, as they call it, and seeing like videos from West Monroe people being like, what just happened? Right? And it was just an awesome moment. And it's going to be hard for anything that I witnessed in person in any sport to really ever top that because of how electric the game was, the history behind it. 35-34, Ouachita beat West Monroe. And man, that is my number one for a long, long time.